So a pleasant day to all of us here in this meet. So today is April 6th, exactly 7:33 p.m. So before we begin our discussion, allow me to ask you if my video is clear.
Yes, ma'am. Clear po.
Okay, how about the sound? Am I audible?
Yes po. Clear po.
Is the presentation visible to everyone?
Yes po.
Okay, if that's the case, I think we are all ready. So before I begin this discussion, may I ask someone to lead us with an opening prayer? Let us see who we have here. May I call on Miss Denise Faustino.
Let's bow our heads and feel the presence of the Lord po. Our Father in heaven, holy be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sins against us. Do not bring us to the test, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Miss Denise. So I am Mr. Ian Miguel DC Isaac. You can call me whatever you want, but I prefer to be called Sir Ian. And I will be your teacher for today's discussion. So to begin, I prepared here two lyric excerpts, this one and this one. So I would like you to observe and examine the text projected on your screens. These are excerpts from two different songs. I will give you, I think, a minute for each slide so that you can examine and observe the words used in the following lyrics. Are we clear?
Yes po.
Okay, if you do not have any other questions, your timer starts now. So today or the time is 7:35. We shall be back at 7:36. So now, any volunteer?
May I
Okay,
try,
Miss
ma'am? Yes,
Denise?
sir. I
Okay,
think I'm not really sure po, but I think there are helping verbs po.
helping verbs, particularly if you're not
Modal.
familiar. Okay, so basically, or meaning to say, today's discussion is all about modal verbs. So let us now move on. Here, presented on your screen are some of the frequently used modal verbs. We have will and its past form would. can and its past form could, shall and should, may and might, and lastly, the modal verb must. Modal verbs. What are modal verbs? Modal verbs are used to talk about a variety of things, particularly possibilities, obligations, and deductions. They are used alongside the main verb to change its meaning slightly. Because they are auxiliary verbs or helping verbs, they cannot necessarily be used on their own, only if the context is clear or unless the context is clear. Are we cool with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks for responding. So here, we can observe the use of modal verbs alongside the main verb. We will expound on this rule further as we continue with the lesson. So here's for the first lyric excerpt, and this is for the second one. Okay. Now, the following are the uses of modal verbs. We have 7, namely the ability, permission, requests, offers, suggestions and advice, obligation, and logical deductions. So, we will not be elaborating on these uses because this will be tackled some other time. For now, we will be focusing on the modal verb formations. Are we clear with that, people?
Got it po.
Okay, thanks for responding. Let us now move forward. So presented on your screen is a sample sentence. Can you please read it for us? May I call on Lai Feng?
He can believe the speech confidence.
Okay.
Confident.
She can deliver the speech confidently. Now, Lai Feng, I want you to identify what part of speech or the sentence is highlighted in color blue. Is it the
Uh,
verb? Is it the
it's
subject?
it's subject.
Let us see. Yes, it is correct. It is the subject. So how about this one?
I think it's a modal verb.
It is the modal verb, correct. How about this one?
It's a verb. Word.
Yes, it is the verb and particularly the main verb. And the next one is rest of the sentence. Okay, thank you, Lai Feng. So for the second example, let me call on Miss Denise. Miss Denise, same instruction.
Um, they can play guitar. The word they is the subject po, and then
How about this one?
it is the modal verb po, and then the
Very
next one,
good.
the word play po is the verb in the sentence, and
The
there it is.
guitar serves as the rest of the sentence. So thank you. So I want you to observe the word order or the structure of the sentence, everyone. This will help us as we progress with the discussion. So these are the two sample sentences we had earlier. I chunked the sentences and put them on the table. Our sentences use different numbers of subjects. First, or for the first sample sentence, the subject here is singular, which is represented by she. And for the second sample, or the one below, it uses the subject they, which is a plural pronoun or a plural subject. So, ladies and gentlemen, whether the subject is singular or plural, the modal verb stays the same for any subject. Are we clear with that?
Yes.
Okay,
Continue.
thank you for responding. I also want you to notice the main verb it follows. Regardless of the number of subjects, when we are using modal verbs, the main verb it follows should always stay in its base form, regardless of the number of the subject. Isn't it that we have the rule when we use singular subject, the verb should have S, and when we use plural subject, the verb should not have an S. So here, when we are using modal verb, here, when we are using modal verb in a sentence, the main verb stays in its base form. So I hope it is clear. So again, for the sentence structure of modal verbs in their declarative form, it should follow the subject, as here represents subject, followed by the modal verb, followed by the main verb in its base form, and the ellipsis here means that there are other parts of the sentence. Okay? Are we clear with that one?
Yes po.
So, Miss Denise, can you please repeat the sentence structure of modal verbs in the declarative form?
The sentence structure for the declarative form po is subject plus modal verb plus verb, and then the ellipsis signifies the rest of the sentence po.
Okay, very good. That is correct. Now, let us have a mini activity so that I can monitor if you understood the first set of rules in modal verb formation. Here, we have jumbled sentences. What I want you to do is rearrange them in accordance with the structure of modal verbs in their declarative form. I will give you, I think, 3 minutes to accomplish this mini task. And I will call someone to read their answer. So, are the instructions clear?
Clear po.
If so, you can now start answering. The timer starts now. So now is 7:46. I will be calling your names at exactly 7:49, or let us say 7:50, so that you can have an extra time. You can now work on your activity. Your timer starts now. Okay, your time is now up. So let us check or allow me to call Mr. Liefeng. I want you to read your answers in items number 1 and 2.
Uh, 1. I can sing a Korean song. 2.
Okay, for number 2,
She will have my office.
she will have my office. So for items 3 to 5, may I call on Miss Denise Faustino?
My answers po, number 3, Danica can perform belly dancing. For number 4, it might rain today. And lastly, for number 5, they should meet halfway.
Okay, let us check if you got it right. So here are the answers. For item number 1, the answer is I can sing a Korean song. Second, she will have my office. Mr. Laifeng got it correct. So for items 3 to 5, from what I can remember, all of them are correct. The answers of Miss Denise. So let us now continue. So I want you to again observe the following sentences. I would just like you to observe the structure of the sentence. So my question is, does the first sentence follow the subject, the modal verb, the main verb, and rest of the sentence structure format? Does the first sentence follow the subject, the modal verb, plus main verb, plus rest of the sentence structure? Oh,
Yes
someone is
po.
raising her hand. Okay, thanks for responding, Miss Denise. So, now, I want you to label the parts of the sentence of the second sample sentence. I'm still talking to you, Miss Denise.
Hello po.
Yes?
You should not watch the movie. You
Okay.
is the subject. Should is the modal verb. And then the main verb po is watch. And the rest of the sentence includes the movie.
Okay. So I want you to observe this sentence. Ladies and gentlemen, the rule states that for us to form the negative form of a sentence with modal verbs, we should be adding the word not between the modal verb and the main verb. Got it?
Got it po.
So that is the rule that negatives are formed by adding not between the modal verb and the main verb. So meaning to say, the sentence structure of modal verbs in its negative form follows the subject, followed by the modal verb, followed by the word not, plus the main verb in its base form, and the rest of the sentence. Is this clear?
Yes po.
Oh,
Okay, thanks for responding. If there are no questions, let us have a short activity once more. Same with the instructions on the first task, you must arrange or rearrange the sentences properly in accordance this time with the sentence structure of modal verbs in the negative form. You will also have 3 minutes to accomplish this task. You may now start answering. Your timer starts now. The time now is 7:55. We shall return at 7:58. Okay, time is up. Now, I want you to read your answers. This time, items number 1 and 2 will be answered by Miss Denise, and items 3 to 5 will be answered by Mr. Lifeng. Okay? So, Miss Denise, what are your answers?
For number one, my answer is I cannot sing a Korean song. For number two, she will not have my office.
Okay, thank you. Let us check that later. How about you, Mr. Lifeng? What are your answers?
单个cannot really dancing perform.
Okay,
It might we not today. They they
okay,
they should not meet halfway.
halfway. So, okay, let us check if you got it correct. So here are the answers, the correct answers. I cannot sing a Korean song. So I think this one is correct, no? She will not have my office. This one is correct. So the answers provided by Mr. Lifeng, I think he got confused. This should be Danica cannot perform belly dancing. For item number 4, it might not rain today. For item number 5, Mr. Lifing, you got it correct. They should not meet halfway. So here we have to remember the sentence structure which follows the subject, the modal verb, the word not, the main verb, and the rest of the sentence. You just have to remember the sentence structure in the negative form. The rule is when we are using or we want to transform it to a negative form or to a negative statement, we should be adding the word not between the modal verb and the main verb. So I hope we are clear with that one. Okay, now let us move forward. So same instruction, everyone. I want you to observe the following sentences. Okay, I hope you observe these sentences. Do you notice some differences in here? So let me call Miss Denise. Could you please identify the parts of the speech in the following sentences?
For the first one po, we should visit the temple. The sentence pattern is same as what you discussed po a while ago, which is
Very good.
we is the subject, should is the modal verb, and then visit the verb, and the temple is the rest of the sentence po. And I noticed po that in the second sentence there was swapping of places, or it was
Very good.
interchange. The should became first. It is the modal verb po. And we became the second, which is the subject, followed by visit, which is the verb, and the rest of the sentence po.
Okay, thank you. Let us see if your observation is correct. So here, should serves as the modal verb, followed by the subject, followed by our main verb, and the rest of the sentence. Basically, the first sentence is what we call or is in its declarative form. The second sentence or the one below is what we call interrogative or in question form. Okay? Are we cool with that? I hope you are taking down notes.
Yes po.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for responding. So, basically, for us to form the question form or the interrogative form of a sentence that uses a modal verbs, we should swap the placement of the subject and the modal verb. Are we clear with that?
Clear po.
Yep, beautiful.
Okay, thank you for responding. So with this being said, the sentence structure of modal verbs in its question form follows the modal verb, followed by the subject, plus the main verb in its base form, and the rest of the sentence. That is the pattern or the structure of its question form. So for your last mini task, you will again rearrange the sentence in accordance with the sentence structure of modal verbs in its question form. Again, you will be given 3 minutes. So I want you to remember the sentence structure I presented earlier. Your timer starts now. So the time now is 8:05. We shall be back at 8:08. So time is up, everyone. Let us now check if you got the correct answers. For items 1 and 2, it will be answered by Mr. Laifeng. And for items 3, 4, and 5, it should be answered by Miss Denise. So Mr. Laifeng, would you like to share as your answers?
One, can I sing a Korean song? Two, will she have my office?
Okay. For items 3, 4, and 5, Miss Denise?
For number 3, can Danica perform belly dancing? 4, might it rain today? And for 5 po, should they meet halfway?
Okay, let us now check if your answers are correct. So for items 1 and 2, Mr. Laifeng got it correct. The answers are, can I sing a Korean song? Will she have my office? And for items 3, 4, and 5, Miss Denise also got it correct. Can Danica perform belly dancing? Might it rain today? And should they meet halfway? So sorry for this one. I forgot to change it to the question mark. But it follows the same structure. For the last rule, I will no longer ask you to analyze the sentence. I will go directly with the rule explanation. They ought to or have to learn how to use a compass. So, the modal verbs ought to and have to do not follow the set of rules we had or we discussed earlier. They are exceptions because they use the infinitive to before the main verb in its base form. So, ought to is a more formal way of saying should, and have to is more formal way of saying must. Okay? Are we clear with this last rule?
Clear po.
Okay, thanks for responding. So to summarize the rules that we tackled, I prepared here a slide. Rule number 1. The modal verb stays the same for any subject, regardless of the subject being plural or singular. The modal verb stays the same. Rule number 2, the main verb stays in its base form. Again, whether the subject is a singular or plural, the main verb you should use should be or should stay in its base form. Rule number 3, oh, before I forgot. For rule number 1 and 2, we have the sentence structure subject plus modal verb plus the main verb in its base form and the rest of the sentence, which is represented by the ellipsis. So for rule number 3, negatives are formed by adding the word not between the modal verb and the main verb. So here we have the sentence structure subject plus modal verb plus the word not plus the main verb and the rest of the sentence. Can you follow? Anyways, I'm just providing the summary of the rules. So rule number 4, questions are usually formed by swapping the subject and the modal verb. So here we have the sentence structure modal verbs or modal verb followed by the subject followed by the main verb in its base form and the rest of the sentence. So for the last rule, which is the one we had previously or earlier, ought to and have to are exceptions because they use the infinitive word to before the base form or the main verb in its base form. So are we clear with these rules, everyone?
Yes, clear po.
Okay, thanks for responding, Miss Faustino. So now, let us put all the rules we had together. So in this activity, you must compose a sentence. A sentence, you just have to write one sentence in the declarative form that uses a modal verb. From that, you have to transform it into its negative form and question form. So they are expected, or you students are expected to observe the proper sentence structure, the modal verb formations, and order of words as you do this activity. You will be given 5 minutes to finish this activity. Are the instructions clear?
Got it po.
Okay, you can now start with the activity. This will be the final activity. Okay, it is now 8:15 and we shall be back at 8:20. So 5 minutes have passed, everyone. So I expect that you're already done with your activity. So any volunteer who would like to share his or her answer or answers rather? Okay, Mr. Lifeng,
Uh, okay. First is I can play basketball,
I
and
can play basketball. I am writing it here so that I can check it. I can play basketball. Did I got it correct?
yes.
Okay.
Uh,
For
uh,
the negative form,
and I can not play basketball.
I cannot play basketball. Okay. And for the question form,
Can I play basketball?
okay, can I play basketball? So let us check it later if you followed or you got it correct. If it is in accordance with the sentence structures we discussed earlier. So for the second set of answers, may I call on Miss Denise Faustino? Miss Denise, would you like to share your
Hello
answers?
po. Yes
Okay.
po. My answers are I can cook spaghetti.
I
And
can
then po,
cook spaghetti.
for the
Okay.
negative form po, I cannot cook spaghetti.
Okay.
And to turn it to question, can I cook spaghetti?
Okay. So I am happy that you were able to produce sentences. So first, let us go back with the rules for us to check if your answers are correct. So for declarative statements, or basically the first sentence structure we had, it follows the subject plus the modal verb plus the main verb in its base form and the rest of the sentence. So Mr. Lifeng's answer is I can play basketball. So let us check. Subject I. Modal verb used is can. The main verb is play and it is in the base form, so it is correct. Then the rest of the sentence or the object here is basketball. So number one is correct. For the item two, which is the negative form, we stated that we should follow the sentence structure subject plus modal verb plus the word not plus the main verb in its base form and the rest of the sentence. So let us check. So I as the subject, can followed by the not. So this is correct. And base form play, which is the main verb, and then basketball. So number two is also correct for Mr. Lifeng's answer, the negative form. So lastly, his answer is, can I play basketball? So here, we stated that when we are forming question or interrogative forms, we should follow the sentence structure modal verb plus the subject plus the main verb in its base form and the rest of the sentence. So his answer is, can I play basketball? So let us check the order. So modal verb should come first before the subject. So can, so it is the modal verb. I, which is the subject. So it is correct because the modal verb comes before the subject. So play, which is in its base form, and basketball, which is object or the rest of the sentence. So for Miss Denise's answer, we, I think it is all correct because basically you have the same structure as to Mr. Lifeng's answer. So good job, everyone. I am happy that you remembered all the rules we discussed. So do you have any other questions or violent reactions?
No questions po. Everything is clear po.
Okay, thanks for responding. How about you, Mr. Lifeng? Do you have any questions we want to
Uh,
address?
I have a question.
Okay, okay. Thank you. So I hope you learned something from our discussion today, and allow me to stop the recording for us to give way for our attendance. So goodbye, class. Class is now dismissed, but do not leave our meeting yet because we have to take our picture. Okay?
Okay, Paul.
So wait a
Thank you
second.
po.
I will just stop the video recording. Wait a minute, where is... Okay, I found it. So stop recording.